What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on Buysellcars TV. Today is all about my 2019 Range Rover, which I bought from the car auction. I know a lot of you potentially want to buy one of these cars, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to share with you 5 things that I absolutely hate about owning one of these Range Rovers. So let's jump in and let's get on with it. Right, so let's get into 5 things which I hate about this car. Hate is a strong word to use, I must say, but we're going to talk about some of the things which I've picked up on during the time I've had ownership of this car. So, point number 1, one of the things which bugs me about this car is the entertainment system and just generally the software which runs that side of the car. So the entertainment system, it's better than what it was on the previous generation, you know, the pre-facelift models. So like your 2012 Range Rovers up to late 2017, early 2018 cars. That was rubbish. They actually done a slight change, I think, in 2016 where they changed the software on those systems, but it was sluggish. But from my experience on this car, it's still not perfected. It's definitely better than what it was. However, when you compare it to, like, you know, Mercedes, BMW, it's just not as slick. And there are times where you go to press the buttons and it's just sluggish. Simple things like turning on the front demister for the windscreen. It's a touch sensitive button, and there's times where you're pressing it and nothing's happening and you're holding it down for 4 or 5 seconds for it to work. There should just be a button or have a better system which is more user-friendly. So it's just something to think about. It might not bug everyone, but it's something which bugs me. Now, leading from that as well, things like the parking sensors, you know, they work as I guess parking sensors are meant to work. However, they are slow to react sometimes. So you might be pulling up slightly quicker than usual into a tight space, and your parking sensors, they don't register it until it's too late, effectively. So if you're not careful, you could hit the car thinking your sensors haven't gone off, especially if you are used to a system like a BMW where they're very, very sensitive and they're quick and they work exactly how parking sensors should. So it's only a small thing, but it still does bug me because you have to be extra cautious when you are parking or doing maneuvers in tight areas. So that's the first point. I'm going to close this pan roof because I'm slightly concerned that there's a lot of wind noise and you're not going to be able to hear a word I've said. So let's close this and carry on with it. So point number 2, it comes down to something we've spoken about. It's the security and it's the theft. Like they've really lacked with the way they've dealt with this whole security thing with these cars getting stolen and just being so easy for them to steal in the first place. It's a pain because you have to always think about, you know, where you're parking your car. Is it safe here? Having to use a steering lock. I've had to invest in a ghost immobilizer system. I've got a tracker fitted to the car. All of these things I'm having to do because these cars are high in demand when they come to being stolen. And Land Rover just haven't really done enough, shall I say, to make these cars more safer from factory. Now, of course, thieves advance, and, you know, even if you do put high security on the car, thieves may still find a way to get into your car, steal it. That, you know, that can happen for sure, but it is always something which is at the back of your mind when you do go out. Will my car still be there when I come back? Having to always think about where you're going to park it. Is it safe there? It's just a faff, and I appreciate when I bought the car I was aware of these things. Part of the reason why I got this car because they are cheap because of those reasons, and they represent good value now, but it is something which is annoying considering that most of the time when I'm in another car, I don't need to worry about these things. Whereas with a Range Rover, it's something you have to think about. So the security side of things on these cars is something which I hate. Point number 3. Well, again, it's something which I knew before buying the car, but I'm feeling it a lot more as I drive it. This car is bloody huge. It's massive. Parking this car in UK car parks, Tesco's, going to a shopping centre, it's too big. In the past, I've had Range Rover Sports and I've had a Vogue before. So from my honest opinion, I think for the UK, you're better off with a Range Rover Sport. It's still a spacious car. It's still got all the practicality, but it's more nimble, it's slightly smaller, and I just found those cars easier to drive around, especially when you go into the city, like if you do go into London or if you live in a congested area. Driving a big car like a Range Rover, again, if you're not a confident driver, it will be difficult, especially things like parking. It will be very, very difficult because it is a massive car. But like I said, I was aware of this before I bought the car because I have owned one of these cars before. But more so now, I think as I'm getting on a bit and just getting a bit more lazy when it comes to driving, I would prefer having a car maybe a little bit smaller, especially when you're just pottering around town. But Some people won't mind, some people will find it annoying, but it's definitely something you need to think about if you're looking at a Range Rover. The size is massive. Now, the fourth point is something which Range Rovers had this issue before. Now, it's definitely improved, but I still feel that the issue is there. Now, the problem these cars had, especially on the years previously, is there is quite a delay with the accelerator pedal. So if you're at a junction and you need to quickly pull out, you go to hit the accelerator and there's a delay. You know, sometimes it feels like a 1-2 second delay, which is the difference between, you know, being able to get through that gap or not. Now, in this car, I feel there is an improvement. They've obviously made some software changes, but it's still not necessarily as sharp as, you know, a typical car. I appreciate it is more of a luxury car, and it's probably been done like that intentionally to give you a nice smooth, you know, transition when you want to pull out of a junction. But it is something I hate because I'm not necessarily the most smooth and slowest drivers out there. So when I want to pull out of a junction quickly, if there's a gap, or if I just in an emergency had to accelerate, I still feel that there is a small delay. It is something which does wind me up because you have to think carefully when you are going to take a gap, so you have to apply the accelerator before you actually want to go. It probably sounds like nothing too big, but until you actually drive one of these or live with it, you'll know the problem I'm talking about. So if you do go for a test drive, or if you are looking to buy one of these, make sure you do take for a good drive. Do plenty of those starting, stopping, pulling out at junctions, so you get an idea if it's something you can live with, because I'm sure for some people it would wind them up on a daily basis. So that is the fourth point on what I hate about these cars. Now, the fifth and final point on what I hate about a Range Rover is something we all know about, is the insurance premiums on these cars. They are an absolute joke. When you compare it to a typical car, it's double, it's triple. Insurance is very individually based on people, where they live, their age. But from what I've found, the insurance on these cars are an absolute joke at the moment. And the worrying thing about insurance on a Range Rover is, for example, if you took the car out on a 3-year lease deal, for example, then you get the car insured and you've paid it in full or monthlies for the first year, no problem. Something which is quite commonly happening to people is the time is coming for their renewal on their insurance. They receive a letter or an email from their insurance company saying that they will no longer insure their car and they're going to have to look elsewhere for their renewal. Now, you imagine you've got this car on a 3-year lease, not a PCP, a lease, which means that you're tied in, you're going to struggle to get out of it, you need to pay crazy amounts to get out of it. So you imagine you're on a 3-year lease, you've done your first year's insurance, and they've said we cannot insure this car anymore. You've still got 2 more years of ownership with this car, so you now start shopping around for insurance quotes. There are less companies out there to insure the car, meaning you're not going to get necessarily a good deal. I've seen it with friends and family that they've been paying £3,000 insurance on a Range Rover. Their renewal has come and the insurance company has said they won't do it, and they've gone to shop around and the cheapest quote they got was £10,000. What do you do in that situation? You still have to insure this car because you've got it for another 2 years. So it's a very, very difficult thing and something you have to think about. And it's one of the reasons why I left this for the last point, because it is a long thing to talk about. Now, for me, I'm in a situation where obviously this car is insured privately because it is a personal car. And generally, I don't keep my cars for years and years, unless it's like an old classic car, then it's something which I might keep for a little while. So on that side, it's not something which I have to worry about massively, but I still hate the fact that I'm paying a high premium in the first place for these cars. Yes, Range Rovers are cheaper at the moment to buy for this reason, so it is a bit of give and take with the insurance and buying the car. But equally, insurance on the whole has gone up for most people, but from my experience, Range Rover insurance is a lot more than your typical car, and it is down to things like the theft, which we've touched on. So those are the 5 things I hate about owning a Range Rover. Hate is probably a big word to be using for this situation, but it's still things I don't like about owning this car. Things you have to think about if you are wanting to get yourself into a Range Rover. So hopefully it just gives you a bit of an insight into what it's been like in the time I've had this car so far. But other than that, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Thank you so much again for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'm going to see you on the next one. Take care, guys.